Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to interview Brionna Johnson. She's a graduate assistant and former advisor at the University of Georgia's branch of College Advising Corps. Today, we're going to help you decide whether you should take the SAT or ACT. Thanks for joining us, Brionna.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
So, when deciding to take the test, what are some of the initial questions that students should ask themselves?
This is a question I got a lot from my former students, and especially now during the COVID pandemic, there's just a lot of uncertainty surrounding testing and the testing landscape. I would honestly say during this unprecedented time to have students take whatever test works best for their schedule, also for them to do some research on each test and see which test fits them better as a student. Again, with the COVID-19 pandemic, there is limited seating and limited tests being scheduled for the fall to ensure everybody's safety. The ACT is actually also doing testing on Sunday, which is brand new because usually the SAT and ACT are only held on Saturday. And then as far as like differences for the tests, the ACT is a little bit quicker paced. You always get a calculator on that one, and there is a science section. So some students who prefer science like to lean more toward the ACT. And then the SAT has a reading section, writing section, and two math sections, but one that you cannot use a calculator on. So some students are turned away by that. I've really just seen students like either one. So again, going back to the uncertainty with the pandemic right now, check out all the test dates, see which one works best for you, and study for the one you're going to take.
So, to put it bluntly, is one test easier than the other one? Or are they both about the same?
Yeah, students ask me this all the time too. I never have been able to figure out the answer to this question. I feel like every student has a different preference. And I think that largely is because of the way that the tests do differ just a little bit, with the ACT again being a little bit quicker paced, having that science section, and the SAT having that math section without a calculator. So it really just depends on the student, depends on how you vibe. I have some students who will study for one test and go and take it and be like, that was not for me, and just have to switch completely. So again, I just reiterate taking the test that you studied for if you have studied, and just knowing that, the tests are scored a little bit differently as well. So in terms of how the tests are scored, the ACT is scored out of 36, and it actually just averages the average of all sections that you took, whereas the SAT, they add up the scores for each section. So if you have a higher score in a certain section of the ACT, that could bump your entire score up, whereas the SAT is just adding the two sections together. So I think it's really just going to depend on what the student is thinking, and also just traditionally just understanding the differences between the tests can help a student a lot.
From my personal experience and from other people that I spoke to as well, one of the best ways to decide which test to take is to take practice tests of both tests. So where can students find practice tests?
So Google is definitely your best friend. I always say start with Google, type in free SAT, ACT practice. There are definitely lots of free resources online. College Board has printable SAT full-length tests with answer keys on their website. There's also Khan Academy, which is a free platform that you can use to study for the SAT. You can also link your PSAT scores on there so they can give you customized questions to yourself. There's also an ACT online platform that is paid but is accessible to students right now for free during the pandemic, as well as students that have access to fee waivers can also access this platform for free. Also, your local libraries. I know those big blue SAT books that you can buy from Barnes & Noble. A lot of libraries, sometimes high school libraries, have those for rent. And then also, definitely don't forget your teachers at school. I know a lot of high school English teachers or math teachers, when they have tutoring sessions, which of course now during the fall will likely be virtual, sometimes students can hop into those and do some SAT or ACT practice with their teachers at school, which can be really valuable. So look around, see what's going on in your school community, see what's going around in your town. Start with the free stuff and then go to the paid stuff later, and definitely depend on Google because there's lots of stuff on the internet.
Are there price differences between the tests? Is one of the tests more expensive than the other?
Only slightly. So the ACT costs $55 this year. And if you add the writing test, it goes up to $70. The SAT is going to be $52 this year. And with the writing test, it'll go up to $68. Both tests also do have a rescheduling fee. So if you register for one date and then have to change it to another, you do have to pay an additional fee for that. But students should definitely know that there are fee waivers available for students who have a significant financial need. So if you're a student who has free and reduced lunch, or it has any form of SNAP benefits or things from the government that you can talk with your parents about and your school counselor to see if you're eligible, fee waivers are definitely there for students who are eligible. So check that stuff out. Talk with your parents and counselor to see if you can do that. But yeah, as far as students who are paying for the exams, they're pretty equal, but again, 55 for the ACT and 52 for the SAT.
So I know both of the tests have optional essays. Would you advise students to fill out the optional essay sections of these tests?
It really depends. So each test, when you register for it, they have a search engine on their website that you can see which schools require the essay for the SAT or ACT. And I always tell students to start with that. Start with that search engine, see if the schools that they're interested in are actually requiring the essay. Sometimes the search engine will tell you to contact the school directly to find out, and that is a great way to make that first connection with a college. So if you're nervous or you're unsure, you can shoot a quick email to a representative from a college and just ask them if they're requiring it. I always encourage students to start with that. Also, if you are using a fee waiver and you get it for free, I always tell students to just go ahead and try it, take it once. But if you are paying for that, of course, make sure that it's required first. And again, with the COVID pandemic, there are lots of schools who are going completely test optional and not requiring the SAT or ACT at all. So I definitely encourage students to do some research and make sure that they have to take the test before doing it, rather take the essay before they have to do it. As far as differences between the essay sections, though, the ACT is a 40-minute essay where students have to create an argument. So essentially, they give you a prompt. You have to pick which side you want to be on and then write an essay about that. Whereas the SAT has it a little bit different, where you're presented with an argument and you have to describe and analyze the argument that was made in the passage. So a little bit different approach. The SAT essay is also a little bit longer. So if you're choosing between which essay to take, if your school is requiring it, those are some things to consider. And then again, I always go back to the point of Google and YouTube being your best friends. There are tons of videos online comparing the two and just analyzing the differences and helping you really prepare for each specific one. So again, study for the test that you're taking, look up those things, and just really be prepared for the test you're about to take.
Awesome. So just kind of to wrap it up here, how many times would you advise students to take these tests? And maybe should they take both? Is that an option?
Yeah, it's definitely an option. I always tell students if they have the means to do so and it's accessible for them, then definitely yes, take both. And that's largely because of what we talked about before. I've had students go into the test thinking they were going to like one better because of the way it's presented, and then they really just like the other one better. I've had students who go and take both and are like, I'm never doing that one again. I'm only going to do this one over. So it's really up to you and your personal preference. And again, colleges will accept either one. They don't really pick just SAT or just ACT. So absolutely, I tell students to take both if you have the means to do it. And if you are eligible for those fee waivers that we mentioned before, you can get 2 SAT tests for free. And this year you can actually get 6 ACT tests for free. So if you are eligible for those fee waivers, definitely use them all if you can. That being said, I have also had students who test again and again and again and then eventually hit a wall. I've had one student actually who took the test 10 times and her last 4 times got the same exact score. So that can definitely happen. There is a point that you hit after you can only study so much, you can only know so much. So I have seen students kind of hit that testing wall of actually getting the same exact score over and over at a certain point. So I would say definitely work with your counselor. If you have a college advisor or college counselor, talk with them about your individual situation and your individual scores. And also look at them in context of what school you want to go to or what school you want to get admitted to. Check out what their averages are, if they have minimums, and just really see and frame your score in terms of what you're aiming for before deciding if you want to go through it again. And again, this does add up. It's expensive. So definitely talk with the people who are at your school to support you before spending all this extra money just to see if you can get your score up. May not be necessary. So definitely lean on your support systems and see what's the best route for you. The ACT is actually creating some new policies for this year. They haven't exactly said when these new testing policies are going to take action, but they have alluded to the fact that there will be some new formats for the ACT test where students can retest a certain section instead of having to take the entire test. This will really help students in terms of superscore. So what superscore is when you have a higher score in a certain section from a different test, you can actually add all those scores together to get a higher overall score. So for example, if a student is taking the entire test, they'd have to take science, math, English, all of those sections. But if you didn't like your math score, the next time you could take it, in theory, if these ACT test changes do happen, you could go back in and just take that singular math section, add that higher score to your previous overall score, and have a higher score overall. So if these testing policies do take action as soon as we're expecting them to in September of 2020, then students will definitely have a lot more autonomy over their ACT score and being able to raise their score, work with the ACT to get different benefits that they're going to be providing to students, and really have a brand new test available to them and being able to just do these certain sections. So that's definitely something to look out for. Definitely check the ACT website, and as you're registering, see what new policies are being enacted.
All right, great. Well, that does it for us here today. So thanks again, Brionna, for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more interviews like this, please subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.